I am the sort of sergeant major to the director who's the officer, so it's up to me to control the crew and try and make whatever the officer wants, the director that is, happen. You need a large amount of organisation, and in order to have organisation you need some form of discipline. And if the discipline is there, then the film should work quite correctly. It always falls to someone, and I'm the one who has to shout at people and tell them to be quiet and do all those sort of things, especially on a film like this, which of course is supposed to be set in Spain in 1813. And the noises of cars going past and people turning on their radios is not quite in period.
I really come from documentaries, which I think is a terrific background for location film work of this kind, because in documentaries you have to get it right the first time. And at the pace that we shoot here now, you've got to get it basically right the first time. I mean, there's very seldom a second take, and often rehearsals are very short. And I'm glad that I actually came from a documentary tradition and not a film studio tradition, because I think film studio's background would have made something like this seem very difficult. And really, you're a documentary crew yourself, you'll see that what I do is really quite easy. I spend most of my time just sitting there twiddling knobs and have to worry about really gaining inches on my waistline more than anything else.
The only way that we can achieve the 2 hours screen time in the 5 weeks, the 30 days that we have, is to produce something like between 25 and 35 setups a day. And that is going like a train, frankly. As you've seen, it's a relentless pace. But with the way that these television series are made these days, we're all used to that, and it's the only way we get it done. I mean, time is the most expensive commodity we have here. And the problem we have in this location is that we're surrounded by mountains, so the light goes relatively early. And by 4:30, we've more or less had it. And we haven't got a lot of interior standby, so it's been a difficult one.
I have to persuade Pycroft to use explosives again, which he's sworn not to do. On top of that, he's going to be at the beck and call of your hero, that bugger Brand.
Brand's a brave man, sir. I've seen him in action.
Yes, well, he's been out there by himself for a good few years. Every time he comes back to the camp, he's a hero. Gone to his head, Sharpe. He's law unto himself. From what I hear, sometimes he is outside the law.
Maybe he uses rough methods, but he gets results.
We have somewhere between 150 and 200 people working on our unit here in Turkey. In addition to that, we have 150 extras. So every day we're feeding 350 people. And we're bringing people together. We're bringing from Russia our stuntmen and our explosives experts. We're bringing 2 wardrobe people who look after the costumes from Moscow. And in addition to that, we've got Australians who are passing through and helping look after the horses. And yeah, it's really like the United Nations here.
And I've got a great team of Russian riders, and they're good riders, they're good stuntmen, good ones. And they've got to pull these horses into line very quickly. And if you watch them, you'll see the way they handle them. They just sit there and the horse plays them up, but they will just sit there and do the job. Extremely good riders. Second to none. I mean, they're as good as anybody. I mean, I've seen them do some really good stuff. In the Ukraine a couple of years ago, they worked very hard, did some beautiful jobs, fire jobs, explosions, fights, good riding jobs. And over here, they proved themselves time after time.
I can't speak too highly of them. They're a marvellous group of people. The speed at which they work, both the stunts and the special effects departments. To do similar stunts in England would take me about 4 times as long. They're not only fast, they're very visual, and you don't run into all the problems that you would do in England and other countries, whereby to do the smallest fall, you've got to dig out huge holes, fill them full of peat, put mattresses down. These guys just throw themselves around like they're into rubber balls. But their attitude is excellent as well. And they're very versatile. I mean, they can do everything from falling, from sword play, from horse riding. They're a very, very good group, and it's certainly paid off this year to bring them from Russia across to Turkey.
Oh, it's a good crew, an extremely good crew, you know. I mean, all the interpreter boys, We've got Giles there, he's an English boy, but he majored in Russian, and he's a main boy for us. I mean, he's great for me, because as quick as the Russian boys anticipate what I want, there's always that one time something goes wrong where I can't explain the colour of their tunic or something, or the dress. And he's there. That's the young boy. He's a very good boy. And they've got Sasha Flavatov. He's the stunt coordinator for Russians, and we get on very well. But there is always that odd occasion when it doesn't go right for me, so I need Giles.
This gun was revolutionary. It was introduced about 1800, and it gave an ordinary soldier, a common soldier, the facility on the battlefield to knock a man over, any man, with up to about 300 yards. Before that, there was a lot of lead flying around on a battlefield, but it was purely arbitrary whether you stopped one or not. In the early days, they were almost impossible to get. This volley gun was built especially for Harper, for the film Sharpe's company. These common muskets that you see in the soldiers' hands, nearly all mass-produced in India. These Baker rifles were made by a group in England, the 95th Rifles, and just loaned to the film so they could at least have a good Baker rifle in their hands.
Well, you've had your fun, Sharpe. But it'll be over in the next few minutes when the frogs come over that wall. Then you'll need a friend. I'll be your friend, Sharpe, but you're going to have to beg. Because they'll torture you. They'll torture you and they'll torture Ross. You'll be begging me to make them stop. And by God, I'm going to make you beg, Sharpe. But
to be honest, when I was asked to do this, although I'd done history at school, I was no expert on the Peninsular Wars. But it is a fascinating period. I mean, the first year I had no chance to read anything. It was purely arrive, do it. I had 1 week's preparation. But since then I've read a lot on history of this period. But then we're tremendously helped because we've got people like Richard Moore, our military advisor, and he can tell you what they had for breakfast, how they did their shoes up. He can tell you anything about that period. And it's tremendous value to us, tremendous.
Well, for the last 20 years, I've been what's called a reenactor. These are people that are so interested in periods of history that they can try and recreate it by using a personal character. And the personal character I had was Rifleman Moore, who is just a soldier in Wellington's army in the 95th Rifles, who serves through the Peninsular War and the Waterloo campaign. During the period of the Peninsular War, out of every 20 casualties in the British Army, only one was incurred as a direct result of enemy action. All the rest died from exposure, sunstroke, heat exhaustion, typhoid, dysentery, measles, and I could go on really, but only one out of the 20 died as a direct result.
it's of a gentleman soldier as a sentry he did stand. He kindly saluted a fair maid by the waving of his hand. So boldly then he kissed her and he passed it as a joke. And he drilled her into his sentry box wrapped up in a soldier's cloak.
I'm allowed to do the music for it as well, which is a real bonus for me, and I enjoy traditional music, and I've been playing traditional music for 25 years. So it's a good opportunity for me to sing from time to time and play the fiddle. Dominic Muldowney, who's my colleague on the music, is a classical musician, and between us we make kind of good cop, bad cop, sweet and sour. It's a good combination. I think it works for the show.
Over the hills and far away.
In Turkey, when the filming is finished, we send the completed film every 2 days back to London to the laboratory to be processed. In the old days, it would be processed negative onto film. Now we use computer electronics. It's all very sophisticated. We used to stick it all together with sellotape and cement, but now we just press buttons. And it's a very good process indeed for assessing what the work is and how the film can be assembled together. Putting the final soundtracks on, we call that dubbing, is a complicated process. On Sharpe, we have up to 100 separate tracks just to have the different sound effects for the horses' hooves, the battle sounds, clash of swords, explosions. We have 3 or 4 music tracks. We have all the different dialogue tracks. We're very proud of the quality of our location dialogue sound. That's the actor's voices speaking. And in the last 3 years, making up the 8 films, we've had almost no need to re-record the actors' voices. We use the original sound, except in very exceptional circumstances.
You're all right. They'll be back. I'm getting too old for this. Have a sit down, Hagman. Too old, are you, Hagman? Hey.
Sharpe is very much a family. The people that make Sharpe belong to a family, and the family starts with those people who make it possible for the films to be made. And there were 1 or 2 special people. There's Bernard Cornwell, who wrote the books. There's Andy Allen and Ted Charles, who were at Central right at the beginning. And of course there's my partner, Muir Sutherland. And they had a fairly passionate belief that this series would work, and they stuck their necks out and supported the series from the very beginning. I think that any man still has that boy's own quest for adventure inside you. You never lose that excitement. And when you read the Sharpe books, every page you want to turn over to the next page and find out what is going to happen. And the stories are very, very good adventure yarns.
Fashionable or not, everybody knows, ordinary people know, that these are the virtues, that's virtues like honour, courage, integrity, loyalty, are the virtues which cement our civilization together. And they're only missed when they're gone. And when they're gone, we really do miss them. Sharpe is not just a reminder of a world that's passed away, it's also a reminder of a world that in some sense has to be recovered if we're to live in a civilised relationship with each other.